You know, there's a wild battle happening right now, and the battlefield is your armpit. Seriously. The outcome of this fight could completely change how we think about staying fresh. Today, we're going to dive into some amazing science behind a totally new way to fight body odor.
But first, let's get one thing straight and bust a huge myth. If you've always thought that your sweat is what smells, well, you're in for a big surprise. The real story is way more interesting and honestly a lot more microscopic.
So here's the game from. We'll start by uncovering the real culprits behind BO. Then we'll ask if our deodorants are actually part of the problem. After that, we'll get into a wild experiment that pits good bacteria against bad, see the incredible results, and finally figure out what this all means for the future of freshness.
All right, so if it's not our sweat that's causing the smell, then what in the world is it? Well, to figure that out, we need to take a closer look at the invisible ecosystem that's living on your skin right now. Yep, you heard that right. Your sweat has no smell. It's completely odorless. The scent that we call BO, that's actually the waste product of tiny bacteria. They're having a feast on the compounds in your sweat, and what they release is what we end up smelling. Just think of it like a little stink factory. So, step 1, your glands push out the raw materials, which are totally odorless. Step 2, the factory workers, these specific bacteria, mainly from a family called Corynebacterium, they get to work. And step 3, they transform those materials into smelly stuff called volatile thioalcohols. That's the scientific name for BO. Okay, so for pretty much forever, our solution has been to just cover up that smell or block the sweat from even coming out. But what if that whole approach has been a little flawed? What if it's actually making things worse? And you know, the study we're looking at today puts it perfectly. It says that using deodorants all the time alters the ecological balance. So we're not just masking a smell here. We're fundamentally changing the entire community of bacteria living under our arms.
And here's where it gets really wild. In trying to fix the problem, we might actually be helping the very bacteria we're trying to get rid of. Some research shows that deodorant can cause an increase in the smelliest types of bacteria. It's kind of like trying to pull weeds from your garden, but accidentally throwing fertilizer on them instead.
So this brings us to a whole new strategy. Instead of waging this chemical war, what if we just introduced a new player to the team? A good guy, a beneficial bacterium to help restore some balance.
Now, you've probably heard about probiotics for a healthy gut, right? Like in yogurt? Well, the idea is exactly the same for your skin. We're talking about putting live, good microorganisms right where you need them to improve the health of that area. In this case, to fight body odor.
And let me introduce you to our hero, a specific strain called Lactobacillus pentosus KCA1. This little guy is a total powerhouse. It naturally produces stuff like lactic acid and hydrogen peroxide, which are known to stop the bad, smelly bacteria from growing. It's pretty much the perfect candidate for a microbiome makeover. Okay, so the researchers had their problem and they had their hero. So they set up an experiment. The big question was, could a simple cream filled with this live probiotic actually win the war against odor-causing bacteria on real people? The setup was pretty simple. They got 25 volunteers, swabbed their armpits to see what their bacterial situation looked like at the start. Then, for 2 weeks, everyone stopped using their normal deodorant and used this special probiotic cream instead. After the 14 days were up, they got swabbed again to see what changed. And let me tell you, the changes they found were not subtle. It wasn't just a small shift. What the researchers discovered was a complete and total overhaul of the armpit's entire bacterial population. Okay, so let's start with the women. At the beginning, the group of bacteria that causes odor, the actinobacteria, made up 70% of the microbiome. After just 2 weeks, that number plummeted to just 24%. And at the same time, the group containing our hero, Lactobacillus, just exploded, taking over completely. A massive flip. And it was pretty much the same incredible story for the men. Their stinky bacteria population dropped from 65% down to 38%, while the good guys more than doubled their territory. I mean, the probiotic hero was clearly winning this battle. Now let's zoom in even closer. For the men, the main villain, Corynebacterium, got cut almost in half. But look at our hero, Lactobacillus. It went from being basically a rounding error, just 0.06%, to making up more than 23% of the entire microbiome. That is not just a change, my friends, that is a hostile takeover. And this just shows how targeted this whole approach was. The cream didn't just get rid of bad bacteria in general. It practically annihilated one of the worst offenders, a species called Corynebacterium striatum. It dropped by a mind-blowing 96% in the male volunteers.
And the hits just kept coming for the bad guys. Other key smelly species were also seriously reduced. So this wasn't just clearing the field, this was like a precision strike against the top villains causing all the trouble. But wait, it gets even cooler. This wasn't just about kicking out the bad guys. The study found something even more sophisticated was going on. The probiotic was actually telling the remaining bad bacteria to be quiet. It was turning down the volume on the very genes that let them produce smells in the first place. It didn't just evict them, it shut down their factories. So this is all super fascinating science, right? But what does it actually mean for us, for the stuff we buy and use every single day? Well, what we're looking at here is a huge shift in thinking. The old way was all about masking the smell and disrupting the system. This new way is about balancing and targeting. It's about working with your body's natural microbiome to encourage a healthier, less smelly environment, instead of just carpet bombing the whole area. So let's just boil it all down. The big takeaways are: BO is from bacteria, not your sweat. A probiotic cream can totally reshape your skin's ecosystem for the better, and it works in two clever ways, by replacing the bad guys and by shutting down their ability to make smells. This could really be the dawn of a new age for personal care. Which leaves us with one final, kind of crazy thought. We're so used to our products being sterile, full of chemicals, but based on this science, the best deodorant of the future might not be a chemical at all. It might actually be alive. A living, breathing ecosystem in a bottle. Now, that's something to think about next time you're walking down the hygiene aisle.